Spoilers, dude.
And I mean, you kind of fucked me over in the movie. What was the plan? And also everybody got COVID, so we had to.
Also, everybody got COVID.
I think what's interesting too is like the trivia, like on IMDb, like things that went wrong and like what
love
got
that
cut
stuff.
and like who was, you know, I'm sure we have some of those stories, but like that's a fun question.
I will say my little sister broke our VHS of The Little Princess, and I was very upset about it. I remember that.
We're good. Guys, thanks very much for joining us here at the Edinburgh Film Festival for In Transit. How did the film start? What was the genesis of the film?
Hello. So I wrote the script a few years ago, maybe 2019 or 2020. I started working on the script when my day job was art modeling for artists around New York City. And I sort of, in the middle of a session one day, found myself thinking, what a strange thing this is, that like these people I don't really know are looking at me so intently and trying to figure out something about who I am and trying to capture it. What an interesting thing. Let me try to talk about what this relationship is like. And then at the same time, I was going through a moment of fear and panic in my own life about what I should do with my life, and feeling sort of like I want to keep acting. I want to make films. I want to make art that matters. But also, this is really fucking hard and exhausting. And like living in New York is expensive and difficult. And like, would I be so much happier if I stopped fighting so hard and like moved somewhere quieter with a lower cost of living and found a job I liked and, you know, settled down sort of, would I be so much more content? And so I started exploring that question through the characters of Lucy and Ilsa, really.
See, Jaclyn, how and when did you come on board?
I think around 2.5 years ago, I had worked with our producer, CeCe Kellogg, before, and she brought me the script. And I think at that time they were sort of developing it and thinking about making it. And I read the script and I found it really interesting and beautiful. And I knew I wanted to do it. And I think with me, like with any project that I come on board, I'm like very, very committed from the moment that, you know, someone says yes to me or whatever. And for that project, I was originally just supposed to direct, and I ended up producing and really helping this vision come to life.
Just direct. That's funny.
No, but really, like you've helped us from the ground up, making this film a reality. It's amazing.
And yourself, when you first read the script, what was that like? What was your first thoughts on that?
Oh, I was really moved by the whole story between the two women, the part of Tom in that. Yeah, the goodness, I think, of Tom really spoke to me, and also just the tone and the atmosphere and the gentleness of the writing really appealed to me. And there's prospect of working with these people. A lovely experience.
I'm really fascinated with opening shots in the movie and opening sequences, and the opening sequence has a bit of a Scottish connection. Talk to me about that. Was that always the plan? Was that always in the script, or did you find that in the edit?
So that was actually later in the movie, and it was when I felt it was, so it takes place in Maine that celebrates Burns Night. And so it was not always in the script.
No,
but
it was initially, I think that scene was initially meant to be New Year's Eve in the script, and it came later in the script, like you said. And then actually CeCe, our producer, who lives in Maine part-time, and she said, there's a Scottish population in Maine that celebrates Burns Night. Like, how about Burns Night? And I was like, this is fascinating. I don't know anything about this. And so I did some research, and I thought it was such a lovely tradition, and I wanted to include it in the film.
Yeah, I forgot when I
part in that.
Well, yeah, but when I watched it the first time, like 5 days ago on my computer, looking forward to tonight. But I forgot that that's not where it was. You're right. It was much later in the movie, but it works so well at the top of it as an opener. Yeah.
It's such a show of community. It's
yeah.
such a,
You immediately understand where you are and what town you're in.
I think with that, we wanted to, I think the first, or something I've learned, is the first 5 minutes of a movie are very important because that's when you bring in the viewer. And I think because Lucy is so content in her life, that scene, it's just like it kind of brings the audience in, and it's a wonderful like sort of community. You show the bar community. And there were also like other bits that like took place in that. We don't have to get into that, but I think like focusing it on Lucy and her world and introducing Tom and the way like, and this sort of accidental Scottish connection as well.
It's funny you mentioned about the reward, because I didn't know the answer, but I would have guessed that was always the plan for the reasons that you mentioned, because it sets the geography, but it sets the tone almost as well. So that's interesting that wasn't always the plan, that you found it in the edit. That's quite interesting. Talk to me about the cinematography, because there's a very distinct exterior, interior, warm, cold look to it. How did you and the cinematographer decide on the look for the film?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that was really important to me was showing the different spaces of Lucy's life and how that sort of, because it's told from her point of view. We have 1 or 2 scenes with Ilsa, but we're sort of grounding ourselves in this place where she feels happy and content, and the bar is very warm and lively, and like you said, we open with that scene, and the bar to me feels a little bit more, intimate. She's comfortable in that setting, and it feels like a community. And then the home is sort of an extension of that, but it feels a little bit like cooler and sort of, I don't know, mysterious isn't the right word, but like you're kind of in their world, and sort of what does Tom and Lucy's like world look like with the colors. And that was a little bit more muted because we were sort of finding out their relationship as the movie went on. Yeah, so like how is that reflected in the colors? And then to me, Ilsa's was always the most sort of stark and simple but vibrant. And it's interesting that that location had that blue wall painted on like when we got there. And so that wasn't even, it was very, no, it was very serendipitous, and that is an actual, it's a townhouse, but it's used as kind of an artist's residence studio, and I think that coolness and that sort of like big, it looks much bigger on screen. Like it looks huge, and it's very small. But I think that also allowed the light and the blues and the kind of the mix of the paint and what they were wearing to sort of like meld together very naturally. But I wanted that space in particular to feel the most alive but subdued, especially to Ilsa, and to Lucy. And I think as we go on in the film, it kind of becomes warmer. Like she becomes, like as Lucy becomes more comfortable in the space, the light and the feeling of the space sort of complements that as well.
You both have dual roles in the movie. Talk to me about how or how not you differentiate between them. Where does the writer stop and the actor begin? Or is it very much a blend throughout the entire process?
Yeah, that's so interesting because Jaclyn and our producer Cece and I were talking about this the other night. For me, it was really important that once we got on set, I was just an actor on set. And I completely trusted Jaclyn and her vision, and gave myself over to her very capable hands, and also stopped thinking about any and all producing duties to the best of my ability, because I wanted to completely focus on playing Lucy and on being immersed in her world. And one of the gifts of this production really has been how collaborative Jaclyn has been, and being able to, trust someone enough to bring their vision into your writing. It's not guaranteed to go smoothly, and Jaclyn was always very collaborative in that, and I felt very, I felt like I could trust her, and that's such a gift.
So you made a conscious choice to stop being the writer once you were on set?
So much so that sometimes I would be like, you missed that line, you wrote that, you should put it back in, it's very good.
No, but I think, I had to just focus on one thing at a time,
Right. And producing, directing?
Yeah, I mean, I think my sort of goal, a lot of directors just want to write and direct. They only want to do their sort of kind of auteur vision of everything. And I studied screenwriting as well, but I think one reason that I studied screenwriting was so I could direct other people's script, and I could understand a script, because, like, you know, it's not, if you want to have a career as a filmmaker, there's so many wonderful stories out there that don't always get told, and are told in the way that they deserve to be seen. And so that for me was I've always been interested in working with developing writing, and I think coming from the theater too, where, you know, theater is very much a writer's medium, and I think there's a lot of sort of crossover here with that feeling. But I also, you know, I mean, I think one thing about what was also wonderful working with Alex is, you know, the final edit is not the exact script. There were things that were not working, and like we kind of played with and tried to make work. And I worked with a fantastic editor, and she was great because she gave like really fresh eyes. But it's you know, it is the story and the script, but it is a director's cut in a sense, and I'm not always given that luxury. So I think having the film feel like it's mine as much as it is Alex's or our producer Cece or any of our team, like that was really wonderful.
Yeah. From the actor's point of view, it seems like you guys did a really good job of portraying the fact that you're in a relationship, but there's a distance there between your two characters, but then between yourself and Ilsa, you've just met, but there's a clear connection. I'm curious, was there any specific notes and any specific scene from Jaclyn that kind of helped form that basis of the performance?
Well, you know, there was very little time to prepare and to get to know each other before, so I think there's like a distance that was already there that we're trying to bridge that gap, because in a way I think that I can't speak for you and Jennifer and Ilsa's character, but there's something about like a hot passion that is easier to throw yourself into rather than this kind of lived-in domestic life that has to be believable as like two people who are like very comfortable, maybe too comfortable with one another, deeply loving, but also maybe a bit bored. You know, like there's all of that. I think we had one dinner together at the local diner, and then we had to be this, couple who's been together for 10 or 15 years. So,
we shot all of their scenes first, which I think helped inform the rest of the film, because it is sort of the most comfortable part of the movie, and that it's like. And I mean, it was all, I mean, what's so interesting too is I don't think you would know that these two hadn't worked together before, or, they have like such a nice chemistry, like interesting, dynamic that is lovely, but also doesn't work in the end. But what's also like, I mean, one thing that I also find interesting that I haven't thought about is like Jennifer and Alex never met before they got to set. Which is actually the dynamic of the movie, which was almost like purposeful
than for us. But I mean, and you say doesn't work in the end, and I agree to a certain extent. But I also think that like the movie doesn't judge that, and if something worked for 10 years, maybe it did work,
absolutely.
and maybe it's just over.
Yeah.
And I mean, you kind of fucked me over in the movie. But it didn't last. Lasted enough.
But what I was going to say is exactly what you said. I think what Jaclyn handled really cleverly is actually how we scheduled these scenes and how we moved through the shooting of this film, where we started with us at home and were able to, over the course of the days we had at home, develop
That's
this
like
lived-in dynamic.
Exactly. And I think you're right. Even if there were those specific conversations about that, I think the way you planned it and the way it worked out was probably very useful.
Yeah, totally. And then with Jennifer too, it's like, we'd never met before, and we, there's a natural, like she's an incredible actor who's done such prestigious, amazing work. And so there's a built-in feeling of like awe for this person when she walks into a room, and it's Yeah, I don't know.
And then there was a 2-month break before
Yeah.
the New York gallery scenes and the New York hotel scenes. So there were
That was also a natural, like,
Yeah.
okay, we're seeing each other for the first time in a minute, and it feels like, yeah.
loaded.
Yeah,
like
loaded,
charged.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. So there was this, as in the schedule, there was a 2-month break. Yeah. Was that?
Yeah.
Like, logistic, so was that?
What was the plan? And also everybody got COVID, so we had to.
Also, everybody got COVID.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Sorry.
Nearly at 10 guys, but we keep talking to someone until they.
Great. Yeah, please.
Since someone bangs violently at the door.
So, at the channel, we're big fans of physical media. If you were ever given the opportunity, the three of you, and maybe Jennifer as well, to sit down and record a director's commentary, an actors, crew, cast commentary for the movie, which scenes would you be excited to chat about in that commentary, and why?
I don't know. I mean, maybe this. I'm glad you find that interesting. I think I always have trouble but maybe I think there's probably one scene from each sort of place. I would say the scene where she first meets Jennifer and Jennifer's sketching her, and there's sort of like it's just like the sort of tension in the air, but you don't quite know why. I would say the dinner scene between the three of them is really interesting and brings out sort of a different kind of how they are with each other. You never see this. It's the only point in the movie besides the quick scene at the bar. And then I think the scene with you and Lucy, because the end scene. I think those sort of three, and the studio to me could kind of be its own it's like own track and story. So I think if we're talking about, sort of this sort of triage of how these three characters move the story forward and inform each other, I would say those three.
You sounded pretty reluctant at first, but actually, like.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't expect.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with those as well. Like, because as a lover of film, like it's. Even growing up, I'm like, do I want to watch this? Like, there's so much I can learn from these people, but also I don't want to break the spell and the magic of that. And
I think what's interesting too is like the trivia, like on IMDb, like things that went wrong and like what got cut and like who was, like that also is. And for this, I mean, I'm sure we have some of those stories, but like that's a fun question.
Yeah, I would definitely say for me the dinner scene, just because like performance-wise, because I got to spend time with you one-on-one, and I got to spend time with Jennifer one-on-one, working on our individual scenes with these characters. But then that's the one moment where everything kind of comes together, and all these little unspoken dynamics between each duo get to be aired out, and that would be fun to talk about. I love commentary and stuff. I'm like, get me on the Criterion channel, get me like the 40-minute like interview talking about.
As we got the knock at the door, but I'm going to squeeze in this one last question, lightning round style. You guys are probably not of the VHS generation, but I'm guessing you're the DVD generation.
VHS?
Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had VHS.
Very quickly, do you remember? Do you remember your first DVD or your first VHS?
The Wizard of Oz.
The Little Princess VHS. I remember it had a pink cover.
Mine was E.T., and I would watch it every day when I was like 4, and I would watch it to a certain point and then pick it up the next day, and when it was over, I would rewind it and watch it again. So every day, like 30 minutes of E.T.
I will say my little sister broke our VHS of The Little Princess, and I was very upset about it. I remember that.
Guys, thank you very much for your time. We'll need to cut it there. Enjoy the rest of the festival, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you. Thank you.